Alright, welcome to video 3 on critical reading. Let's take a look at this next question here. So, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous question? Oh, very interesting. So remember, if you recall, the initial question was, passage most strongly suggests that Adelita used which of the following to navigate her 9,000-mile journey? And we discovered that the answer was the inclination and intensity of Earth's magnetic field. We said in the second paragraph, second sentence in the second paragraph kind of answers that question for us. So that's where I would think the answer is. But if you look at your answer choice, it says lines 1 and 2. So we're saying, I argue that this kind of more or less right here answers the question, right? But my answer choices, none of my answer choices, this is somewhere like between 6 and 7, right? None of my answer choices have that. So what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm wrong? No, I still think I'm pretty straightforward answers the question. So I don't think I'm wrong here, right? But this does look kind of strange. So first things first, what I want you guys to realize, and if you're using if you're actually on the actual test, you'll have it listed in a certain order. This is pulled from the Khan Academy website, and it's in kind of this is from the College Board, my bad. It's from the College Board, and they go question by question when you click on it. So you wouldn't be able to see this, but on the actual test, you'll be able to see the following question, right? So this brings up rule number 5, which is read multiple questions at once, okay? There are a lot of questions on the SAT that say, which of the following lines confirms the previous question, okay? And sometimes if you're struggling with the initial question, you can use the second one to find kind of an idea of where the question comes from, okay? Now, different people are going to tell you different things on this, okay? So I have a little section in our notes that I like to call ideological differences, okay? So you have to decide what's best for you, okay? I'm giving you strategies. Some of them are going to be effective. Some of them you're going to be listening to, you're like, I wish you would just go move on. I don't really care about the strategy. So you got to decide for yourself what works and what doesn't, okay? There's a problem here, and this goes back, and you can tell that I'm really concerned about this. This goes back to the confirmation bias, right? So if you're reading the question and you see stuff that maps together, you may just gravitate towards that as the answer without really answering the question, okay? So I wrote here, using the second part to answer the first creates the confirmation bias, and you may sniff out something that matches instead of the real answer, okay? So again, this is my opinion. If you depending upon who you speak to, you will hear different things, okay? But what I believe to be the case is that my opinion is to try to answer the first question first, okay? So just like what we did. If I can answer the first question, great. I'm going to use that to answer the second question. If you're struggling and I can't answer the first question, I may read for a little bit. I want you to understand that this question, it says, what answers the question? Is it from line 1 to 2, 20 to 21, 36 to 37, or 43 to 45? So that's a very large different. Those are the different places throughout your text, right? So it could very well be that in a question like this, you're reading and reading and reading, and you don't want to read too much because your mind will wander too much. So maybe in a situation like that, though I think that the answer lies right here, it may very well be that it might be in your best interest to jump to question 2 and use that to pinpoint exactly where you're at, okay? So it's not going to always work, but I do think you should just read the first couple paragraphs, maybe go up to 3, before you decide to start using the second question to answer the first, okay? If you do use the second part to answer the first, what is important here is that you double check at the end, okay? What I want you to do is mark that question off. If you have time left over after the entire test, go back and see, as you read through and answer questions, you should have a better idea, a better perspective of what the passage is talking about. So you can use that to answer, to really make sure that the answer you chose originally is what you think is the correct answer. Okay? So it's a little tricky because you can use the second question to answer the first, but you may run into a problem. Okay? So let's do that though. So we know that the answer has something to do with the magnetic field. Now let's go through each of these and see what happens. Okay, I guess I'll just do this, and we'll do this in blue. Okay, so it says lines 1 and 2. So lines 1 and 2 are right here. Okay, in 1996, a loggerhead turtle called Adelitos swam across 9,000 miles from Mexico to Japan, crossing the entire Pacific on her way. So does that answer the question? Okay. Now, what I want you to see here is that the actual original question talked about navigating 9,000 miles. So somebody who is not really reading is going to say, hey, look, 9,000 miles. 9,000 miles. That's my answer, right? But that's not what the question is saying. Remember our rule 3. We talked about the puppy and the kitten passage, right? Just because you have words that match 9,000, 9,000, that doesn't mean that that's the answer, okay? In fact, this has nothing to, remember we said the answer here has something to do with magnetic fields, the inclination and intensity of Earth's magnetic fields. That first sentence has nothing to do with that, right? So I would argue that the first A is actually wrong. It does say that the turtle did swim 9,000 miles, but it does not tell you why it swam. And see, this also goes back to Rule 3 in that you have to understand, right? You have to understand what the question is asking. You can't just say, oh, 9,000, 9,000. Boom, there's the answer. Okay? Let's look at 20 and 21. I think that's still on here. Yeah, 20's down here. Using his coil-surrounded tank, Lohmann could mimic the magnetic field at different parts of the Earth's surface. Okay? So does that answer the question? Well, we say it has to do with the magnetic field as their own GPS. Lohmann's running an experiment here, but that's still not going to be the answer because it's just mimicking the magnetic field. It doesn't say anything about the turtles. Just say he's running an experiment about this, right? But notice again that this question here talks about coil-surrounded tank. And if you go back here, you have electronic magnetic coils, right? So if you thought the answer was B here would seem to be correct. And this is, again, what I'm talking about in rule number 3. If you're just trying to map things, sometimes I call this like the Control F or the Command F, depending upon your operating system, right? Where you just hit Control F and you just find things that match up. That's not going to work on the SAT. You have to understand what you're reading. You can't just simply sit there and be like, oh, these words match up, that's the answer. Okay? You're going to run into a problem by doing that. So we know B is incorrect. Okay? Now I got to go to 36 and 37. Unfortunately, I have to flip to another page here, but let's go to 36 and 37. So 36 is, in the wild, they might well also use other landmarks like position of the sea, suns, and stars. Now this is saying that I don't actually know the context of what this is saying, so maybe I'll go up a little bit and read. Okay, so I'm just going to start from the beginning of the paragraph. Before now, we knew that several animals migrate from loggerheads to reed warblers to sparrows, had some way of working out longitude, but no one knew how. By keeping the turtles in the same condition with only the magnetic fields around them changing, Putnam clearly showed that he can use these fields to find their way. In the wild, they might also use other landmarks like the position of the sea, suns, and stars. So if you read ahead, it says that here, by keeping the turtles in the same condition with only the magnetic fields around them changing, Putnam clearly showed that they can use these fields to find their way. That sentence makes sense, right? But our sentence is, in the wild, they might. My lines are so big I can't see. They might well also, let me underline, in the wild, they might well also use other landmarks like the position of the sea, sun, and stars. So it's essentially saying that you can use landmarks to figure out where they're going as well as the electromagnetism. But it's focusing that they can use other things. So is that answering our question? I'll just use this as, does that answer the inclination intensity of Earth's magnetic field? No. It's saying in addition to that, they use landmarks, right? So that doesn't reinforce that. It says it gives another reason. So it's true what it's saying there, but it's not the answer to the question. Okay? So it's got to be 43 and 45. I'm getting a little nervous here. Let's look at it. Okay, so 43 and 45. Neither. Hold on, let me make sure I'm reading this right. Neither it is. Okay. So neither corresponds directly to either latitude and longitude, but together they provide a magnetic signature that tells the turtle where it is. Well, that is pretty specific, and henceforth, that is the answer. Okay? So what you can see here, I'm hoping what you see is the potential flaws that can emerge, right? They're very big on using words and hoping that you say, oh, this word is in this one passage, so this has to be the answer. But you cannot just match words with words. You have to read. You have to understand everything, but you have to understand the overall arc of what the question is asking. So, hopefully number 2 now makes sense, and the next video we'll tackle the next question. See y'all there.